Welcome back. It's a glorious day for both of us. Starting off, first news of the day, gotta go in chronological order. Erik Ten Hag is sacked. Now, you might hear a little bit of happiness, a little bit of disappointment. It's a lot. I'm feeling a lot right now. The first thing that comes to mind, relief.
I think it's just a long time coming. We all know, I've been saying it. I'm the only one who's been saying it in the whole entire world that he needs to be sacked. I'm the only person ever who said it. So, yeah, he should have been gone a while ago. This guy he's not been good enough this whole season. We could see it. Where they are in the league, a big part of it is because of him and this progress. We haven't really seen it. He can keep talking about the FA Cup. He can keep talking about the Carabao Cup that he won. And he did. Oh, we
fucking did.
Best believe he continued to talk about that. And so in itself can kind of just show he was feeling a bit of the pressure too at the end.
Yeah, I would think he'd have to be crazy or an idiot not to feel the pressure and see it and hear it. You know, like you have to be spatially aware enough to know, hey, there's a problem going on right now and I'm at the center of it. Maybe I should figure it the fuck out, but for whatever reason, it's just been a slow walk to the point that we are now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it should have been done after the Spurs game because that game we truly looked out of it. From then on, we had an international break. Why not get rid of him then? But no, we waste 2-3 more games. We're 14 games into the season and we've won 4. One of those is against Barnsley. The best teams or the okay mediocre teams that we come up against, we lose or we draw. And it's always an excuse and it's always, you know, I've won 2 trophies in my 2 years here. And that's fantastic for a mid-level team. We're Manchester fucking United. We did have a trophy drought. We did for a long time. Too long for a club of our size. But for you to think that 1 FA Cup and 1 Carabao Cup and 8th in the league is okay, that's where you've lost me, dog.
That man, again, he's just not cut from the right cloth to manage a club as big as Man United. You look at his recruiting, and that is probably the biggest point, especially for a manager who it seemed like they kind of gave the power to, especially his first 2 seasons in the transfer window, right? So you see, we just from the top down, I mean, and then they're not all completely his fault, right? But obviously the manager has huge say in these signings, in these players.
Signings, for sure.
Anthony is not very good.
At that point, when it wasn't the new board and the new owner and the new, head of recruitment, it was basically all on him. And you can't fault him too bad for thinking, oh, I had these players before. They did a job for me in the Eredivisie or wherever. But no, they just can't do it in the Prem.
There's players that they've brought in under Ten Hag, and especially for the money and things like you think. Money, you can kind of put that aside because everybody's overpaying for everyone. But at the same time, 100 something like that for Anthony, right? That's a Ten Hag, 100% that's a Ten Hag signing. He's saying, we need a winger. This guy, he's played for me. He does bits. He's the future of the Brazil national team. Probably things like that, you know what I mean? As soon as you pay that much for him. So the guys like that, we see Højlund. Højlund, 70, 80 million. He's not there yet. He's a maybe kind of guy. Xerxes, again, a maybe. Like
only 38 million.
But still, he's a maybe. The left back, I can't even remember the Dutch guy. He fucking hasn't even played. Casemiro, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, Martinez, okay. We can say okay. Oh, Nana, we can say okay. Right. But there's nobody that, like, he's brought in. There's nobody who's really elevated the team. I mean, you still have players like Johnny Evans showing out.
Lindelof.
And Johnny Evans showing out in big games.
Yeah.
Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire's your starting center back pairing, things like that. That in itself just kind of tells you, even where he sees the players that he's brought in and just the recruiting in itself, just from that aspect, has just been not there at all. And that's just one aspect of it.
That's one key point, yes. But then another thing that he's really... I have been a Ten Hag supporter since the day he was signed. I will never ever root against a manager or root against my team. You will never hear those words come out of my mouth. I will never want United to lose a game. Never. I want every manager to succeed no matter who it is. It didn't matter if it was David Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ragnick, Ten Hag, and then whoever it is next. I will want them to succeed. But when you come out in the media after really bad performances and you talk about your trophies that you've won, that just pisses me off. Because, yes, he has won 2 trophies in 2 years, and Arteta hasn't won any in 6. But, you know,
here we go with the
we're not talking about that. But at the same time, that's the levels to this right now. Like, that's the levels. You can't say, hey, we did so well in these cup competitions, so we don't really have to worry about our Premier League form. That's not the way it works here.
We can put things into context, too, when we talk about Arteta, because I got some love for my man Arteta, just a little bit still.
They were selling Arteta out shirts,
right?
3 years ago. Come on.
Arteta is brought them a pretty long way in his own right. Yes, the trophy thing is true, but Ten Hag though, that's what we're here for. This man, he just wasn't cut for it. The tactics in some of the games we've seen, the way they've played, continuously leaving somebody like Casemiro stranded in the midfield.
Or
game
no
after
midfield.
game. Yes, game after game, having him sitting there. Your double pivot of Eriksen and Mainu. Mainu's an up-and-coming guy, but he's not there yet.
Six.
He's not a sole 6. He's not the enforcer in the midfield. He likes to be on the ball. He can defend. He likes to be on the ball. He likes to do stuff, right? Him and Eriksen, that's not... So, there's a lot of different things that we could point out about Ten Hag, especially... Like I said before, the people he's brought in that he's had a big part of.
The money he's been allowed to spend, not just on, 1 or 2 big name players, but all across the tenure, he's had signings that have just not worked. I mean, when you look at Onana, first year, very rough. This year, he's starting to come into it. He's starting to do better. And after 2 years, he's finally looks like the keeper that we saw at Inter and at Ajax. Martinez, somehow he's took a step back this year. He was one of the best center backs in the league at a certain point 2 years ago. He really was. Like, he was a top 10 center back from the first year. But now, after the injuries and then after so many poor form, or so many dips of poor form, it's like, what are we doing here now? He's a center back that we now have that's 5'9". And I love the dude. I think he has the exact attitude, the right mentality, everything that you need to succeed at a giant club like this. But the next manager comes in, is he going to want a 5'9" center back? I don't know.
Put that man at left back. I put him in midfield next to Casemiro. I don't know. You could put him at left back,
He's
and
a
I think he
versatile
could
player,
do a really
but
good job. He can pass. He can do things like that. Him specifically, he's just another highlight.
A question mark
of Ten Hag and his decision making. And again, like Trevin also said, the things he would say after press conferences, to media, and you can tell he's frustrated. You can tell things are getting to him. He's getting agitated. Yeah. The pressure, like we said earlier, he is under so much right now, and he was starting to fold in a lot of press conferences. He was starting and you can see the aggravation, especially this past 6 to 8 months. It's been a little bit even more of that.
And obviously managers get attitudes when they're under pressure. We've seen it with Mourinho. We've seen it with Pep. They're not, necessarily under pressure to get sacked like that, but under pressure for big games in particular for Pep. But you see him kind of lash out every once in a while. But it's still hey, we're still good, so you can't talk too much shit on us. Whereas with United, we're not good. So when they talk shit, he has nothing to back it up other than the 2 trophies, which, wonderful. I loved it. I will never forget winning at Wembley against City in the FA Cup. That is no doubt a top 3 memory. But at the same time, we're not good enough. And it's that simple.
Yes, you see it. 2024 Ballon d'Or winner. Who else but Rodri, the best player in the world by far. Maybe not by far, but by pretty good margins, I'd say, for a guy who only lost 6 games throughout all of 2023. Man has won, I believe it was 8 titles, a few individual awards for Player of the Tournament, Player of the Year, things like this.
We're talking about this season, though.
This guy is he was the best player in the world. He's the best player in the world. Man doesn't lose, okay?
Except to United, that's neither here nor there.
That was one game, and we all know, and I think all United fans, if they were reasonable, would agree, this guy is different gravy. He's the best player in the world. Doesn't lose. The goals, the assists, clutch moments, just an all-around enforcer throughout the game on both sides of the ball. I don't know what more you could ask of a footballer. He's the most complete footballer in the world, in my opinion. He's got it all. He literally has it all. He plays in a position where most players really don't get credit when they are the best in that position. I mean, you can look back, people like Vieira or even Roy Keane, players like that really didn't get the credit for the jobs they do. But this guy is one of those guys, and he deserves the credit. And so I'm so glad to see that, a City player got it. Hey, come on, finally, right? Finally, 115 charges later.
I mean, I can't say anything other than he is by far and away the best defensive midfielder in the world. And I think the gap between 1 and 2 is so large that people kind of overestimate that he's the best player in the world. I don't think he is. I think he's by far and away the best player in his position. He gets into every starting 11. Doesn't matter. Every single one. He is, without a doubt, deserving. He has been fantastic all year. Now, if you want to talk about, is this player more impactful for their team? I don't think so. Someone other than Rodri. Rodri is so important in this City team that their unbeaten run in the Champions League or in Europe, quotations because they fucking lost, but
after a 90.
Regardless, without him, that doesn't happen. Without him, not a lot of stuff happens for this City team.
Without Rodri, you understand, Spain probably aren't going to win the Euros, right? Against
100%.
They have this gap between Rodri and somebody like Zubamendi is insane.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying Spain still could have won the Euros.
Well, and they did without him.
He's huge part. He's leading the teams in so many different ways. He does come off injured, but I mean we could say that about a few different scenarios for different people. Like, I'll be honest, we can say Vinny and we can say Mbappe and even Haaland too. I'm throwing him in there because just the goals amount is insane, right? But if you take a player out of a team, if you look at the importance of a player in their team, if you take Mbappe out of Madrid, if you take Vinny out of Madrid, just not at the same time, I'm just saying one player for another, right?
Player for player.
Player for player.
Most important.
Bar for bar, most important player, Rodri. Best two-way player in the world, Rodri. Best midfielder in the world, Rodri. This guy, he deserves it because not only, yes, he doesn't score goals, which is the hardest thing to do in football, as everyone will say. It's the hardest thing to do is put the ball in the back of the net. What this guy does in the midfield is different gravy. He deserves all the applause. He absolutely deserves the Ballon d'Or. And I'm not saying these other players don't deserve the Ballon d'Or, but not when you have a season like he did. Like this guy won everything. And the impact he has in his team is greater than any other player does have in their respective team. 110,000,000% on that.
I can agree with that, and I also agree that the Ballon d'Or has fallen off.
Fallen off. Rigged trophy, don't like it. Let's get that straight away. I don't give a fuck if he wins it, doesn't win it, a City player, whomever. I really don't care. the Ballon d'Or is definitely falling off. It's not.
When you
it's
look,
not a thing.
When you look at the top 10 finalists in, let's say 2008. Yes, we're being kind of nostalgia merchants, but at the same time, you do have to think the difference in quality 1 through 10 today versus 2008, 2010 is huge. I mean, Rodri is the best player in his position, one of the most important players in the world for his team, on and on and on. There's so many great things that you can say about him, but would he have finished top 5 10 years ago? No, I don't think so. Would Vinicius have scored, 35 goals and assists and gotten into the Ballon d'Or top 10, top 5? No, he wouldn't. You saw 2 years ago just how fucked up this trophy is when you saw somebody get 44 goals and assists in a calendar year. Or I'm sorry, in a calendar year, not get nominated at all. Not nominated at all. It's Rashford. It's Rashford. Rashford scored 44 goals and assists in the calendar year of 22. Wasn't even nominated in the top 25. You can't tell me that you think that Vinicius, anybody that makes the argument for Vinicius to win it, you cannot tell me that his 23 goals and 12 assists were that much better. Yes, they won the Champions League. Was it because of him? I don't think so. Was it because their team overall was the best team and their manager was on such a high and so much confidence and he's a pure vibes manager and they had it and everything clicked? I don't think that was all on Vinicius. I don't think that you can say he deserved it. So the next man is Rodri.
As a whole, football, you could just say, some people would argue the level has just decreased. It's more systematic instead of Maverick-esque, if you know what I'm trying to say. We're not going to see as many Mavericks.
It's more X's
nowadays.
and O's.
If you look at somebody like, I like to throw out, Trevin likes Rashford, I like Phil Foden. I could throw somebody like I like Jack Grealish. Yep. Jack Grealish at Aston Villa, you see what he does, you see him come to City, that Maverick-esque, and somebody like Phil Foden too, I think he has that in him to just put the fucking game on your back, run at somebody, make some shit happen, and score a goal and win your team a game, right? That is going to happen less and less. Yes, we see people obviously score goals to win their team a game, but the approach, the whole way football is just played now, I think is just deteriorating the Mavericks of football. So it's just a difference in quality now, to Trevin's point. Overall, though, Rodri, Ballon d'Or, deserved. Other players, I'm sure they deserve it too, but at the same time, this guy deserves it the most, just because he has been the most important player in the world, on the best team, I think, in my opinion. So take that as you will. Let us know who you thought should have won in the comments.
Let us know who you think United should make the manager.
Yes.
I honestly, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Obviously, they're going to give the interim to Van Nistelrooy until they can figure out something. Do they keep him until the winter? Do they keep him the rest of the year? We'll let you know.